How's the show going?
It's going fantastic. We just finished up our second season, or we've got 2 more weeks left that airs. And then we're starting into our 3rd season, bigger and better, you know, June 26th.
You work a lot of hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roll. Action.
The big day has arrived. I find myself smack dab in the middle of the Paramount lot looking for stage 9. I think I'm lost. Where's stage 9? Stage 9? First comes the spray paint. Then vintage Star Trek sideburns personally applied by the master makeup artist, Michael Westmore.
Captain Kirk, eat your heart out.
With a coat of ghastly gray and some cool sideburns, I look the part of a dead crewman. But even a dead walk-on needs nice hair.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. Nice to meet you. She looks good dead, too.
Finally, I make it to the soundstage looking for a little direction from the show's star, Captain Archer himself, played by Scott Bakula.
What's my motivation?
Stillness.
Stillness?
Yes. You're a rock at the bottom of a pond. Trying not to cause a ripple.
Did I mention this is the coolest episode ever?
By taking the existing design, the old show's design, and just updating it just enough so that it's absolutely authentic, but it has a little bit of how shall I say, a newer patina with a little more technology, but still being very much honoring the original.
The show's executive producer, Manny Cotto, fills us in on the plot.
There's a plot involving Natholians who have punched a hole into alternate space, and they've gotten the ship defiant from our universe, but from the future, which looks like the old Enterprise.
When you're writing, how many last episodes of any shows that you love are you ever happy with because you don't want the shows to end? So that show, really our last episode was trying to jam 3 years of what they had hoped to do with our show into one last episode. Again, impossible to do. I had a whole Federation story to bring together and create. So we got a couple of Andorians in a room and a couple of Zindies, and we all shook hands, and that was it. The Federation was born. So it was shorthanded. I think they used that device. I wasn't as upset about it as I think Jonathan and Marina were, but again, I wasn't asked, so I went along with it. That's a kind of a lousy answer, isn't it? Anyway, it's a bad answer. The show ended. We were unhappy.
Director James Doohan, best known as Scotty on Star Trek, has died. Almost a year ago, Doohan withdrew from public life because of Alzheimer's disease. For nearly 40 years, he portrayed Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott aboard the USS Enterprise. The Canadian born actor began in the early days of live TV, where his command of accents and dialects kept him in demand. James Doohan was 85. Veteran character actor James Doohan, best known as Scotty on Star Trek, has died at his home in Redmond, Washington. Almost a year ago, Scotty Doohan, James Doohan, withdrew from public life because of Alzheimer's disease. For nearly 40 years, he's been most closely identified with the role of Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott aboard the USS Enterprise. And he entered the language of pop culture as the subject of the command, "Beam me up, Scotty." The Canadian-born actor began in the early days of live television drama, and his command of accents and dialects made him a sought-after performer. James Doohan was 85.
Tonight, Hollywood and Trekkies everywhere mourning the passing of Scotty. James Doohan was the chief engineer of the Starship Enterprise, who for years boldly beamed up his TV space crew. And E.T. has been there every step of the way.
Ready to transmit. Energize.
He played the fun-loving Scotsman who regularly delivered the ship and his crewmates from danger. He was occasionally flustered when faced with the impossible, only to save the day at the last moment. And he became a cult hero among Star Trek fans. James Doohan died today at the age of 85. James, who had suffered from Alzheimer's disease, retired from public life with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. E.T. contacted William Shatner, who said, quote, "A long and storied career is over. I knew Jim when he started out in Canada, so we go way back. My condolences go out to his family." Doohan leaves behind his wife Wendy and 7 children, including Sarah, who was born in the year 2000 when James was 80. The cause of his death was pneumonia. His ashes will be launched into space on a memorial spaceflight. He will be missed.
I've enjoyed myself ever since. I really like the character. I love the fans. Just an automatic love affair.
In a 1998 interview, Doohan was asked if he ever got tired of hearing the line, "Beam me up, Scotty." "I'm not tired of it at all," he reportedly said. "I hear it from just about everybody. It's been fun."
Do you miss that role, and did it end the way that you wanted it to when it went off the air?
You know, I do. I miss my crew. I miss the show. We were, you know, a family. I miss my castmates. I do get to see them periodically, but not like it's just not the same, you know. And I love them all dearly.
And also, is it true that you were Trekkie growing up and thought Spock was sexy?
I'm a huge Trekkie.
Really?
I'm a huge Trekkie. I grew up on the original. That was very much a father-daughter time, you know. And with sitting with my brothers and my dad in the living room, that was.
Did you go to Star Trek conventions?
I do now.
You do?
I
Really?
do now.
Mr. Spock, of course, played by Leonard Nimoy. He is the man who portrayed the famous half-human, half-Vulcan first in the original Star Trek series in the 60s and later in 6 feature films. Now, for the first time in 18 years, Mr. Nimoy is back playing an older, time-traveling Spock in the much-anticipated prequel Star Trek. Leonard Nimoy, it is so good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. What was it? I'm sure that it must have been a little bit nostalgic putting the ears on for the first time in 18 years.
More than a little bit. It was great. It was like, on the one hand, it was like slipping into an old bathrobe, you know, feeling very, very comfortable. On the other hand, working with all these very, very talented people and with the memories of the people that had gone before, it was a very emotional experience for me.
This Star Trek movie is the origin film, and it deals with the characters that you know and love, but in a way that I don't think anyone expects.
I think that when we kind of searched our hearts and our guts and asked, like, how do you start this over? What do we want to see? Who do we want the movie to, you know, revolve around? The answer was, for all of us, Kirk and Spock in that original bridge crew.
How did this crew come together? How did these people form sort of one of the greatest and most lasting teams in the history of cinema and television both? Why are they so iconic?
The movie itself is not so much an homage as it is an updating in a way and a telling of what we didn't know about these characters before.
Yeah.
Were you surprised at how intelligent this was?
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised because I read the script, obviously, and I had a good conversation with the writers who I admire a lot, and J.J. Abrams, the director, told me what they had in mind, so I could see it coming. But the backstories have been alluded to earlier in some of the TV series and in some of the earlier films, but never as well told and as told in such human, emotional terms that is in this film. And that's what I think makes the picture such an important and wonderful experience, because J.J. Abrams has made a very, very big film. It's got great special effects, great size, great scope and scale. But at the heart of it is this great human core.
James Kirk is everything that you'd want to be. Impulsive, brash, loud. He's a flirt.
If you don't tell me your name, I'm going to have to make one up.
And the process of the movie is how is this guy going to take all of these disparate energies and kind of mold them into the form of a captain.
As acting captain of this vessel, I order you to answer the question.
Well, I'm not telling, acting captain.
Kirk is, arrogant, and Spock is very contained and very sort of structured and operates within the framework that is presented him. So those two methodologies don't necessarily, it's kind of oil and water at first, and we see that. And the evolution of that, and the earning of one another's trust.
Now, how important is it for it to break out like that, so people who wouldn't normally like Star Trek will go see them?
Well, I think we have a very good chance for that to happen. You know, Star Trek 4 crossed some boundaries, too.
Yes, it did.
It was a story that you didn't necessarily have to be a Star Trek fan. And it had some humor, and it had some character touches that people enjoyed.
And you directed it.
Directed it. and it had good word of mouth. People talked to each other about it and enjoyed it. And it broke some boundaries. It reached some people who had never watched Star Trek before.
Right.
This movie can do that, I think, in a gigantic way. Because it's a very, very big movie, and it's got these great characters at the heart of it. I think it'll satisfy a lot of people, and I think it'll surprise a lot of people. I think a lot of people will be saying, well, how's it going to work? How can they do that? How can they replace these characters? And I think it's going to work very, very well.
If we were just doing a true prequel, there'd be two problems. One is you feel like, you know, you've seen it before, the rules would have been a little bit difficult to kind of make the movie feel brand new. And secondly, a real prequel has that problem of, you know they live. You know, you've seen the other movies, so I don't care how suspenseful that sequence is, I've seen that guy play that character, you know. So what we created was sort of this alternate timeline approach that allows our movie to coexist with the original but not be a literal prequel.
Needless to say, finding the right faces to fill the roles of such well-known characters was crucial to pay proper homage to the work of the original cast, the fans who adored them, and to maintain the interest of a new audience.
Casting the movie was key. Never having the actors do impersonations of the original actors, because that would have been a skit, you know what I mean? So we got great actors who were able to come in and make these characters feel familiar and yet completely their own, so that was fun.
I will not allow you to lecture me.
I don't want you to stop me.
No, I think really the mandate that JJ set forth in the beginning was that while these were our characters, at least for the time being, while he wanted us to bring a fresh perspective, there certainly was tribute to be paid to the legacy of Star Trek, that these characters would have been brought before by, in my case, Mr. Shatner. So it was a conversation about, you know, taking the scalpel to the performance of Mr. Shatner, finding what things we could kind of use in my performance.
You will answer me. I had a bit of a different job, which was to infuse this very well-known creature with my own point of view and to cultivate this internal life that, you know, I wasn't able to express as fully as I would have if I was just a good old human being.
You appear on the set, and there are all these young actors, and that was you once upon a time.
They tell me that when I came on the set, they were intimidated. And I think that's appropriate. When I was their age and I came, and the big guy came on the set, I was intimidated.
The first time you saw Zach dressed up as Spock, what was that like for you?
Spooky. Spooky. He's very good. He's very good, yeah.
It's uncanny how much he captures Spock, but still does his own thing.
And he brings certain new colors to the character in that that's a Spock before the Spock that I played.
Right.
So he's not quite as comfortably resolved with himself as the character that I played in the series. So and I thought he did a wonderful job of bringing those colors and touches to the character.
Chris Pine as a gentleman named James T. Kirk.
Yeah.
How was that, just playing against somebody different?
It operates on a number of layers. There's the layer of the pleasure of knowing that I'm dealing with somebody who is an old friend in a way. At the same time, this is a young guy who has a lot to learn and is going to go through a lot of the processes that I know he's going to go through and experience a lot of things that I know he's going to experience. So I guess in a way it was like playing a scene with his son.
Yeah.
And in the same way I felt with playing a scene with Zachary. It's like playing with a younger portion of myself, not just the younger version of myself, but a younger part of myself, somebody who I understand and who I hope to be helpful to.
For you to play Spock again for the first time in 18 years, what was that like?
I felt terribly comfortable. Maybe terribly is the wrong adjective. I felt wonderfully comfortable. It was well written. The scenes were interesting. They all made sense. The relationships were well established. They knew the character. The writers and J.J. Abrams knew the character and understood Spock. I felt very, very comfortable. It was difficult physically for a while to get the look right, to get the hair right, and to teach people how to do the ears, how they should look. You know, we had to go through several sets of ears before we got exactly the right shape. And the clothes were all different. I'd never worn this wardrobe before, so all of that has to be dealt with. But that's the mechanics of it, and we got that out of the way. As far as the life of the character was concerned, I felt very comfortable.
For me, it was really the job was to really capture the very spirit and essence of what DeForest Kelley had done so wonderfully well for 40 years, without slipping into mimicry or coming up with some carbon copy caricature.
I was afraid of watching the series and falling into the habit of an actor's fault of always imitating other actors' performances, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel Nichelle Nichols deserved that, and much less Uhura, the role of Uhura. So I read a lot of fan sites, and all these biographies that they had created was amazingly interesting.
Why do you think JJ is the right guy to helm a new Star Trek?
He's young.
pumped full of energy. He understands a great story. He understands how to tell a great story. He's got an insane visual style.
You know, he comes from that Twilight Zone world where he just knows how to string the audience along in all the best possible ways, and it's really exciting to be around him.